to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, where my comedian panel will review the papers. Today we'll be finding out, is the Cold War back? Let's hope not, because we'll also be finding out the new cost of warming things up. But first, the news.
Good evening, I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister is calling on world leaders to make a renewed effort to ensure President Putin fails. Boris Johnson has unveiled a 6-point plan of action to respond to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which ranges from humanitarian support to inflicting more economic pain on Moscow. He's due to host leaders from Canada, the Netherlands and Central Europe in London next week. The Ministry of Defence says Russia's proposed ceasefire was likely an attempt to deflect international condemnation while resetting its forces for renewed attacks. Moscow claimed it had opened humanitarian corridors, but promised ceasefire in the city of Mariupol has collapsed amid continued shelling. The leader of the Labour Party is calling for action to prevent Russian oligarchs avoiding sanctions and criticism in British courts. Sir Keir Starmer wants to work with Boris Johnson to fast-track new laws to stop rich Russians using their wealth to intimidate legal opponents. He also says he fears those connected to the Kremlin could take advantage of the courts to get more time to move assets out of reach or avoid sanctions completely. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin has said the sanctions being imposed on Russia are akin to declaring war. Speaking today, the Russian president also warned a third-party declaration of a no-fly zone over Ukraine is participation in the armed conflict. His comments come as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky pushed NATO to impose the restriction. But the alliance says the move could provoke widespread war in Europe with Russia. Well, Ukraine and Russia will hold a third round of talks on Monday in a bid to reach an end to the conflict. It comes as the Israeli Prime Minister met with President Putin in Moscow. Naftali Bennett has offered to mediate between the two countries, although officials have previously played down expectations of a breakthrough. Ukraine's Foreign Affairs Minister says his country will win the war with Russia, but says the question is, at what price? Dmytro Kuleba has met with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Ukraine's border with Poland to discuss Western support and the isolation of Russia. He says he expects new sanctions and more weapons for Ukraine to be implemented in the coming days.
The message of the heroic Ukrainian people is simple. Russians, go home. You are on foreign land where no one needs you and no one welcomes you with flowers. Putin, leave Ukraine alone. You will not win this war. Time to save lives of Russians and end this bloodbath.
Ukraine's Foreign Affairs Minister speaking there. Well, on TV, online and DAB Plus radio, this is GB News. Now, it's back to Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen. I'm joined tonight by Sajila Kershi and Leo Kearse. If you two were to get married and you went double-barrelled, you'd struggle. It's either...
Oh, it would have to be Kershi Kearse.
It's double-barrelled. Oh, that's the name.
Yeah,
I thought that was some sort of position.
Kersh. Oh, I'm getting tongue-twisted.
Kershi Kearse.
Kershi
No,
Kearse.
we wouldn't go double-barrelled. I'm a traditionalist. Sajila would take my name.
and we're off to a cracking start.
No, you're not. That is...
You know where to send the complaints. Lovely, not to me. Yeah, beautiful. Right, so let's run through the headlines, shall we? Let's start with the Sunday Telegraph. Their headline, "Don't test us, Wallace tells Putin." On to the Independent. Their front page goes with the headline, Putin, Western sanctions are akin to a declaration of war. The Observer, defiant Putin, warns the West, your sanctions are akin to an act of war. I guess spotting a theme on the front pages. To the Sunday Mirror, where outrage as Putin bombs during ceasefire, but unarmed Ukrainians confront his soldiers to say, clear off back to Russia. The Sunday Times on their front page, merciless Putin shells evacuees. To the Sunday Express, with their front page, trusts, this is the struggle of our generation. I thought that would have been the pandemic. And the Daily Star has Pentagon sources, puffy-faced Putin lashing out over his constant pain, Mad Vlad dying of cancer, is their take on it. And that is the front pages. So let's jump into, first of all, with Sunday's Independent. Surprise, surprise, Putin isn't happy, Sajila.
I don't think we've ever seen Putin happy, have we? So just read the headline. It's from The Independent. Putin says Western sanctions are akin to act of war as Ukraine evacuation plan collapses amid shelling. Now, Vladimir Putin's claimed on Saturday that Western sanctions were akin to a declaration of war as Russia was blamed for the collapse of a ceasefire designed to allow tens of thousands of Ukrainian civilians to escape the besieged cities of Mariupol and Volnovakha. OK, so the sanctions have been coming from places, I'm told, like Samsung, PayPal, Zara, H&M, clothing organisations, IKEA, Swift Banking. I don't know about you, and I'm not a military expert, so I must confess that in advance. And I'm not a war geek. I don't know if you guys are. But I don't think not being able to buy a bully bookcase, a Swedish meatballs, or have a little visit to the cafe in IKEA constitutes an act of war.
How are you going to furnish the barracks?
Exactly.
I mean, I think what this is doing is bringing pressure on the Russian people who were actually kept in the dark about this invasion, kept in the dark about it. I mean, they're learning about it now, but it's going to bring home to them. I mean, the sanctions are completely unprecedented. I know unprecedented is a word that we've used a lot in the last 2 years, but these really are. I mean, it's going to completely send Russia back to the 90s, send them into the deepest and darkest recession. I mean, Apple, all the technology companies, a lot of car companies, a lot of consumer product companies are refusing to sell products in Russia anymore. A lot of software companies, what's really going to hurt them is the technology. So if they can't get the microchips, which are, the West has got a grip on the microchip market. You need our microchips and our software if you want to run things. Even if you want to run your drones, even if you want to run your military apparatus. So I mean, stuff is going to work for a little while, and then as soon as they need to replace things, then it's all going to stop and it's gradually going to grind into the ground. As we're seeing with the invasion of Ukraine, it's gradually grinding into the ground. We've seen, the 40-kilometre convoy going into Kyiv, just stuck in mud. The roads have all been chewed up by tank tracks, and they're invading in the spring, which is the most ridiculous time. Like, invade in the winter when the ground is hard, you can drive tanks across it. Not in the spring when you're just going to get bogged down in mud.
Yeah, definitely not when the weather is clement.
Yeah, it's also interesting to hear those things described as an act of war, sanctions,
I know,
whereas I imagine war is an act of war.
Yeah.
And probably a worse one. But
Yeah.
who am I to judge? We can move on to the Sunday's Telegraph next. Good news for anyone who wants to take this country back to the 1980s, Liam.
Yeah, I mean, in the 1980s, we had the threat of nuclear war. It never actually happened, but according to a Cambridge expert, it could happen. Now there's a 1 in 80 chance of it happening, which to me sounds, that's a bit too high. If the lottery was 1 in 80, I'd play the lottery. That's a bit. But yeah, so he's recommending that government departments urgently make contingency plans and preparations for a nuclear attack on Britain. And we've seen this. In America, they've released, Biden's administration has released guidance on what to do in the event of a nuclear attack. And hilariously, they included guidance on social distancing and wearing a face mask. Because, if we're having nuclear fallout raining down on us, the most important thing is that we don't catch a disease that's pretty much 100% survivable by now. And also with the social distancing, what if in the nuclear fallout shelter, there isn't enough room for like 6 feet? Somebody's going to have to stand outside and
Rules
just
are rules.
catch that plutonium.
I was just saying, I said the other day in the show, so my flat's not 6 foot by 6 foot. So I don't know where stuff, like, I'll just chuck everybody out.
Yeah.
My son will have to just fend for himself. The thing is, I mean, they say here we're going to need to dust off some of the old plans from the past, referring to the plans made back during the Cold War. Where are they going to dust this off? Where are they kept? Where is this happening, these old plans?
I can't remember exactly where it is in Essex, but there's a road sign that directs you to the secret bunker.
There it is.
Like the top secret comedy club. Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, it does go into some detail in the article about what life in a post-nuclear apocalypse Britain might be like. It sounds a lot like Hull, but it says, because we're not going to be able to grow crops because we'll have a nuclear winter, which is worse than a normal winter. So we're going to have to eat insects because they're a source of protein and they're resilient to radiation. We're going to have to turn indigestible plant matter into edible material by processing it in paper mills and mixing the pulp with enzymes that break the cellulose into sugar and the hemicellulose into other sugars.
That paragraph really stopped being scientific at other sugars. Just other stuff. I'm sure there's a fancier word for it. And the idea of the bad foods, the insects, it probably means that if this all goes wrong, people who've been on I'm a Celeb stand a better chance of survival. Is that the world we want to live in? It's not an actual question, I just think it's a very good point. We can move on to The Sun now. That has a dramatic video that's come out of one terrifying moment in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And this one's yours, Sajila.
Yeah, we have got video footage for this, haven't we? So an incredible video shows a moment where a Russian helicopter is blown out to the sky by the Ukrainian troops as war rages. So a helicopter basically flies over, as you can see, and from the right, I believe it was, it comes what are they called? Those missiles fire. There's a particular name for it. I can't remember now.
The Stinger.
It's a Stinger. A Stinger comes flying in towards a chopper, and before they can launch a counterattack. As you can see, the helicopter's just blown up into bits. And obviously they're celebrating this, and that Ukraine is sort of boasting that they've shot down 30 helicopters and 30 warplanes. I can't personally celebrate that piece of footage because, for me, that is still someone's son, someone's brother, someone's husband maybe, but actually they're very, very young men, the soldiers.
Should have brought him up better. Should have brought him up not to invade Ukraine. That's what I tell my kids.
I know.
I say, don't invade Ukraine. You're going to get a stinger right in the face when you're flying your helicopter.
I knew Leo was going to go down this way, right? So I said, let me finish my bit, right? I just think that I can't celebrate that because I don't think they're invested in the war because they're just cannon fodder. So they're probably losing because they don't actually want to do this war. And you saw their faces; they're kids. They are so young, and you see all they're crying for their mothers. It's just a really horrific thing. And I think once we start celebrating that and going, yeah, that's great, we've kind of lost our humanity because there's still people that probably didn't ask to be as part of this war. I know when you join the army, you know what you're going to be up against, but not every soldier necessarily wants to go to the battle that they're going into.
Yeah. So let's cross to someone who may have lost his humanity. Leo, what do you think?
I never had any humanity. So this is no. I thought it was fantastic to see Russian helicopters getting shot down. I think everyone in the army in Russia now knows, so they're complicit in it, and they've got the choice. And we're actually seeing a lot of it. I salute the brave soldiers who are risking being court-martialed by deserting. This is happening a lot. They're actually disabling their own vehicles. They're putting holes in the fuel tank or whatever, saying they've been shot or whatever, and deserting and abandoning their vehicles. And deserting. And that is what everybody in the Russian army should be doing. And surely the Russian generals, because of smartphone technology, we can now track where they are. They can be held culpable. There's all the evidence to pin them to war crimes. So they know when Putin falls, they're going to be falling as well. So they need to be thinking about, should we be turning back? Should we be holding back? And I think that's part of the reason why the Russian army, this supposedly mighty Russian army, hasn't been able to take Ukraine. I mean, there's a lot of corruption in the Russian army. There's a lot of just incompetence, but also they just don't have any appetite to fight. And why would they? The Ukrainians are their brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Why would you want to go in and it would be like the UK invading Wales, but except you actually like them.
I'm descendant of Welsh people. I'm sure I should be offended by that, but I think we can
It's
move on.
Leo.
Yeah, what did I say? Well, we could settle this peacefully if we say that whoever wins the Paralympics gets to keep Ukraine, and it's looking good for the home team. This one's from Sunday's Independent, Leo.
Yes, so Ukraine, on the first day of the Paralympics, is topping the Winter Paralympics medal table. They've got 3 gold medals on the opening day. So Vitaly Lukianenko won the visually impaired sprint biathlon. Also, Oskana Shishkova won the women's competition, and Grigory Vovchinsky topped the podium in the men's standing biathlon event. So I really hope the next time Russia invades somewhere, it's with names that are easier to pronounce, frankly.
I was about to say the same thing. Like, can we not be doing stuff that can please, like, easy names, please?
I mean, if Ukraine are winning the Paralympics now, think how well they're going to be doing in a few years' time.
After the invasion, yeah. Do you, a controversial point of view, and probably not what's happening at all, but imagine if you were also competing against someone from Ukraine. Would you not be tempted, as everyone's doing something to try and support Ukraine, to just ease off a little bit?
In the Paralympics, I don't know how that works in the Paralympics. I know what you're saying, and everyone's supported, but this is the thing about the Paralympics. So I attend the Paralympics when we had it in the UK. I attended it when we went to Rio, and it's a completely different vibe. It is such a warm, wonderful vibe, because it's not the competitive hard edge, like, you want your country. Yes, you want your country, but actually anybody who wins, we celebrate them. And not in a patronising way. I know you're looking at me like that. But
sounds quite patronising.
So, no, shut up. Yeah, just
well
Leo,
done.
right? No, listen, I've not finished. So my point is that I think, and I know you're not going to agree with this, of course you're going to be contrary, is that we should have let the Olympians from Russia and Belarus take part, because these athletes, because it is one place that I felt more than the Olympics where there was a sense of solidarity and peace. And like I said, they've been training for a long time, and I'm really afraid that we're going to create a situation where we start hating and tarring every single Russian with the same brush, and we kind of have this this anti-Russian hatred. So I'm just going to, for balance, just say that I think, and they are amazing, the Paralympics. They always have been. It's been really, it's very inspiring to watch them. And for young people, we've still got future young people that should be watching this and saying, look, what is achievable.
But
so
if you follow that logic, though, does that not talk you out of a lot of sanctions? Because it won't be the military particularly being hit, like H&M not selling things. I mean, that's Putin, I imagine, doesn't pop down H&M.
I don't think he does.
I think you can target a country without targeting the people. And I agree with Sajila, not about the Paralympics.
Oh my God, are we agreeing?
Not about the Paralympics, they're really boring. But about, Russians, I've seen a lot of anti-Russian sentiment. I was on the tube this week coming into GBNews, and a drunk woman, asked me if I was Russian. And she was obviously going to give me grief if I was Russian. So, of course, I said, yes. But no, I mean, there's a lot of anti-Russian sentiment, and a lot of it is from, like, the Met have fired their Russian singer or ballet dancer, whatever, the Met Opera or ballet or something.
I thought you meant the police for a second.
No.
Yeah, I think Met have got loads of Russians.
So,
Look at them, really?
Well, they probably do. I mean, it's London. But we're seeing this, and often from the same people who, as soon as there's a terrorist attack, they're hashtagging, not all Muslims. So, there seems to be a bit of a dichotomy about how we treat different groups of people.
Let's move on to the Observer now. Lecky bills are going up, which means we could soon be doing this show by candlelight, Sajila.
We all look prettier by candlelight. My mum always said, go on a date in the evenings under candlelight, you look prettier.
You check the weather forecast, make sure it's not too bright that day.
Yeah, just not too bright. This is the Observer. Energy bills, British consumers quoted up to £3,500 a year for fixed rates, and households in Great Britain are hoping to kind of fix something. Everything's going up. Like, rent's gone up. I know we're going to talk about that later. So I have written something down here that I do want to say it's of great importance, and I can't remember it. So household bills are going up, apart from Eon, who thanks to a tip-off from Martin Lewis, please be upon him and his money-saving tips. Also, look out for Octopussy, or sorry, actually it's Octopus, but I just quite like the idea that they're called Octopussy. You know, it's like a.
I'll rent the film.
Based on the Roger Moore.
Yeah,
Roger Moore
exactly.
comes up at your house and installs a gas.
Felix Leiter dies in that one. Just, I can't sit through that again.
Yeah, and they're offering a similar but less attractive deal. It's standard 1-year fixed cost $3,200, which is still a lot of money for an average use of, but for 20% discount for loyal Octopussies. Or Pussy. What is the plural?
Well,
people who buy gas.
Yes, who have been with them for 8 months or more. The rest are basically stuffed, the rest of us, because I didn't swap over to Eon or Octopus. And so, you know, you're looking at me like, I don't have all the answers, but I'm just saying that we are all going to be facing really difficult, hard times.
Leo, you strike me as a person who doesn't often compare markets, but right now the stakes are high, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they are. And I mean, we're already facing, unfortunately, you know, we've had this for the last few years, we've had this ridiculous push towards green energy, which doesn't make any sense. So we've been shuttering our nuclear power stations. We haven't been developing our coal and gas. We're not fracking. We're not developing the Campbell oil field in the North Sea. And it's left us completely at the mercy of Russia for oil and gas. So it's ridiculous. Basically, Greta Thunberg's got blood in her hands. The Ukraine, I'm not even joking. The Ukraine crisis, you know, if its coffers weren't so full of European money from paying for their oil and gas, and if they weren't so confident that we had us over an oil barrel, then they wouldn't have felt confident enough to launch the invasion. So, you know, all this green policy, net zero, it's all a nonsense. And we need to do away with it. And hopefully this is going to be the trigger. Because, you know, with the Ukraine crisis going on, that's going to push energy prices even higher. So, you know, what we've seen over the winter is going to get even worse. We're lucky that we're going into spring and summer now, so hopefully we've got some time to fix the roof while the sun is shining. But
So
I'd
what
love
you're
to see
saying
coal
is
back.
you'd love to see coal back.
Coal back. Oh, because I remember the coal man used to come around when I was a kid. When we first came over to the country, the coal man used to come around.
Yeah.
And we used to have like a hot fire.
So
and we didn't have crumpets, but we had chapatis and poppadoms.
So, I mean, that sounds very romantic, but from where I'm from like a long line of miners, from Mansfield, which used to be a coal mining place, the job looked terrible. It was great to put food on the table, but I'm really grateful that I didn't end up going down the coal mines. I'm the first in my family to hit 6'2", so I would have head-butted everything down there. But it seems very nice to be like, oh, isn't it quaint? It was a horrible job that did your lungs in.
It was a horrible job to do. It was, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
OK. So it was build more windmills. I think that's something to do with that. From one cost of living crisis to another, this one's housing, and it's from The Observer, Leo.
Yeah, that's right. So average UK rent has passed £1,000 as house price figures break through the £260,000 barrier for the first time. So if you want to rent a house in the UK, it's going to cost you, if you want to rent a property, it's going to cost you, on average, more than £1,000 a month. And if you want to buy a house, it's going to cost £260,000 a month on average. So this is up 8.6% on last year. I mean, we'd have thought, like, coronavirus would have, like, done something to, you know, at least, you know, wipe a... You know, we thought one of the benefits of coronavirus, not that there are any benefits, but one of the benefits would be, you know, there's going to be fewer people for the houses we've got. But no, apparently not. And so, yeah, maybe this nuclear war that's being threatened, maybe it's not all bad. It's going to, like, bring house prices down, like, even if it's just 2%. I mean, assuming that the sort of supply of housing isn't reduced so much that it actually pushes prices up. Which could happen.
Well, you're after a neutron bomb, which I think just kills organic matter and leaves buildings standing.
Exactly. If Vladimir's got any of them, just send them over first. And yeah, then we'll see whoever's left. You know, we'll be so thankful at saving money at Foxtons that we'll actually, you know, we'll support.
Are you actually feeling the pinch though? Because I have to say that I genuinely am feeling the pinch that my rent's gone up. Obviously, the gas, electricity, everything's going to go up. Cost of living, everything's up. And I'm just trying to find more hours in the day that I could be, you know, making money, you know, doing things like this. And I genuinely am, as an individual, concerned. Does it? I mean, because it's not glamorous, it's not all riches in our industry. I mean, are you either of you actually genuinely, without discussing it as a news thing, finding that it's been a bit more?
Nah, I've noticed it more in beer and crisps. So crisps, I don't know if you go into the supermarket and get crisps, but you know when something like Tyrrell's, like a premium crisp, like Kettle Chips or Tyrrell's goes on offer, it used to be £1. That was the standard offer. And now it's £1.35. A pound, that's a 35% increase. And also beer. I mean, beer was always extortionate in London, but and it's depressing. Now you've got these things that you can actually, it says if you go on Just Eat or whatever, they link up with Klarna and these loan agencies. You can get a pizza and pay for it over. It's like I'm getting a mortgage for a pizza. Is this insane? You know what I mean?
Easy payments with low interest rates to get a pizza. Yeah, it's
happy times. Well, the unrelenting spectre of mutually assured destruction that was part one comes to an end. Join us after the break. We'll be talking about rainbows and fluffy things, I promise.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
That you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen. I'm joined by Sajila Kershi and Leo Kearse. And let's move into Sunday's Independent is the next one. People are paying to go on holiday, but then not go on holiday. It's a shame we've already used the word staycation. Sajila.
Oh, I love this story. So people are paying not to stay in Airbnbs to help Ukraine. So for all the, the whingers on Twitter and social media or saying, oh, we should do this in solidarity with Ukraine, actually get up and do something productive, and which is some of these people have done. So Airbnb has more than 300 listings across Ukraine. Now, someone's decided that it's quite a nice idea to book an Airbnb apartment in Ukraine, send them a personalised message, I hope you're okay, but not actually turn up, so that it's money, income that goes straight to the person who's renting out the property.
It's important to remember that last step, isn't it? Don't turn up.
Yeah, not turning up.
Yeah.
Don't turn up. Don't turn up.
And if you do turn up with some stingers.
We're so aggressive.
Yeah, that's how it goes on every weekend away.
It's a war. You've got to be kind of aggressive in war, otherwise you're the Russian army.
Bring a box of chocolates. God, not a very good guess. But yeah, so I mean, this is the kind of thing I want to see on Twitter. Like Sarah Archer, UK sales manager for Beachcomber Tours, wrote on Twitter, I booked a weekend in Kyiv on Airbnb, pick closest date, random apartment, run by an individual, not a company, book, pay, and send a message of support while telling them that you're no-show. And then someone else has said it's really cheap and can make a small difference right now. Please share this idea. So, of course, Twitter then, kind of kicks off and everyone's sharing this. That's the kind of thing I think people, if they want to help Ukraine, if they want to show solidarity, I think that's what you should do. And actually, when Ukraine get back to normal, I hope they do the same thing for us. And I'd like to rent out my imaginary room, and just give me the money and not turn up, because I don't think there's any room.
That's a good point.
Yeah, isn't that great?
But could scammers just set up fake Airbnbs? I don't want to give anybody ideas.
Oh my God,
fake Airbnbs in Kyiv.
That's terrible.
No, and also this, I mean, even if it works, obviously it's great that people are sending money to Kyiv, but I mean, what they really need is food and things to buy the money with, because that's going to be the difficulty, actually getting the things that you can buy money with. And it's rewarding landlords and people who own property. I think it'd be much more ethical to send the money to webcam models.
And you've made a great start.
Yep.
So I've
been doing it for years in anticipation of this war.
Beautiful work. Into Sunday's Mirror now. And is football coming home again, Leo? No.
It looks like it is. So Euro 2028 could be coming back to the UK and Ireland. So there's been a joint bid from the UK and Ireland that looks likely to face no opposition to hold the 2028 European Championships, because Russia and Turkey have either pulled out or been kicked out. No pun intended. So Turkey's going to drop out of the running, apparently to avoid being beaten for the third time. So they really don't have a lot of confidence. I mean,
why did they even enter it then?
Yeah. And also now Russia, with the state of Russia, they've got quite a good chance of getting through. I mean, that's, the field's dropped down to just us and them.
They just hope that we start a war and there'd be a shoo-in.
Yeah.
Are you excited, Sajila?
I'm not a football person, but I do watch like the Euro and the World Cup. I get excited about that. I just wonder how much it costs. Did we spend a lot of money on this, or?
Yeah, it costs a lot.
Yeah, so I don't know. So
2028,
stuff, probably we should be back on our feet again, hopefully.
Well, maybe. It depends how much money you make from ticket sales as well. I seem to remember last time there's some games here, people just walked in, which couldn't have been great for ticket sales.
No.
So that's one way, but it does change the nation a bit, doesn't it? I remember, I'm not into football either, but I remember sitting there and watching the final, and I did get excited by it. I was sat at home rather than walking straight into the stadium, which apparently you could do. But yeah, I mean, so are you more excited when it's played in the UK?
I think that probably makes it more exciting for us, but then it's more horrible when you don't win.
Yeah.
It smarts a lot more, doesn't it?
And maybe we could use the opportunity to bring back good old-fashioned British football hooligans. So we did away with them in the 80s and 90s. And now I think, what the war in Ukraine is showing us is that, we need those men. Russia didn't do away with its football hooligans. It had military training the football hooligans. So then, when they met up with other countries in Marseille or wherever, they could totally annihilate them. So I think, we now need to fight our wars. Now that we're in a new Cold War, we need to be thinking about having proxy battles everywhere. And in provincial European town centres is one place we're going to be doing it. Not just plastic chairs in the fountain, but also punching Russians in the face.
If Russian football hooligans were given military training now, would that mean they lose and then call their mums? No, I guess we'll find out. Into the Observer now, and it seems that the NHS might not have learned much from the story of Mary looking for a room in the inn, Sajila.
Oh, OK. So, we praise the NHS, and I'm a big fan of the NHS, but this, for me, is pretty much a human rights issue, women's rights. Revealed scandal of the NHS charges putting pregnant migrant women at risk. So vulnerable women face huge bills before giving birth, campaigners are saying. The health of migrant women and refugee women and their unborn babies has been put at risk because the NHS has either doesn't classify them correctly, so that they end up having to pay when they don't need to pay, or they hound them for the money to pay for this pregnancy whilst they're heavily pregnant. Even cases of when they're actually going into labour, they're asking for money, and it sounded really like what America's like. From if you don't pay up, then they don't treat you, and even actually something like India, Pakistan, that's the same thing. They'll leave you outside. And I thought it was horrific, because I thought that's the one thing that we actually should be really proud of. And in those circumstances, migrant women, the asylum-seeking women, they don't necessarily have a right to work. They're not getting benefits. They're stuck in the system. So and they might be in a domestic violence situation. So they're not getting the help that they kind of really, and the support that they need. So I was quite disappointed to hear about this. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this.
We're all scared.
Oh, I think it's awful. Scared. I think everyone from all around the world should be able to come to the UK and have whatever healthcare procedure they want, paid for by my taxes. You know what I mean? Come on. We've become this tourist destination where people can come and get stuff for free.
They're not tourists. They've actually,
Yeah, they're not tourists.
Refugees. No, they're refugees. They're refugees. This is what I'm talking about. So we've got refugees that we are quite happy to take from Ukraine, and you've actually sort of suggested that you're sympathetic to them. But you seem to have not got much sympathy for, and this is what this article is saying, like women of colour they're getting. So
are
you saying a similar thing?
I don't think the issue that people in this country have is anything to do with colour. I think it's to do with ideology. It's to do with ideology. If people are coming from places that aren't compatible with Western liberal democracy and the British values of tolerance and equality and things like that.
So people, like the Ukrainian people aren't en masse. Like Ukraine isn't just one body. Moscow isn't, or Russia isn't just one body. If you've got people coming from Afghanistan, incidentally, a mess that we created. We created that mess, and then we left them in a mess. And women's rights have gone right back down again. So that's down. That is entirely down to us. And then you refuse to take that. And I've heard people say that, we're going to take the Ukrainians in. That's terrible because they're like us. And even within Ukrainians, there's been discrimination because Black and Asian people are not, being let through. They're still being discriminated. So you say it's not a colour thing. Absolutely, 100% is.
No, we're talking about different things. I mean, the persecution and the discrimination at the border, where the Polish guards aren't letting through people of colour. That's obviously a colour thing. But that's not the same as our immigration policy, and that's not the same as letting people in. We've seen.
So in this particular story, right, which is literally about migrant and refugee women, so vulnerable women, do you think it's okay just to let them have a baby on their own, like just maybe just pluck it out from their womb themselves and not get the care and assistance that they do? Do you not think that's a humanitarian thing to do in any country, wherever you are?
I think we need to stop health tourism.
This is not a health tourism.
Well,
and I repeat that they are refugees. They're refugees. They're not. They're vulnerable women. These aren't. They're not. They can't even get a job if they wanted to. They can't get benefits. So there's no.
They should have worked harder in school then.
Wow.
Might leave that fight there. As much as I could sit here watching it, and there'll probably be an extended version that we could watch later. We'll move on to the Observer once more. It's hard to tell, but I think, Leo, you're a Scottish. And Keir Starmer is trying to seduce you. Is it working?
Keir Starmer, yes, he is. I mean, he had me with that manly quiff. But basically, the next Labour government, this is what Keir Starmer says, will create a Britain that Scottish people aren't just part of, but proud of. This is what Keir Starmer has pledged as he accused the Tories and the Scottish nationalists of being joined at the hip in their desire to keep the country stuck on pause in the politics of 2014 forever, when obviously with the independence referendum and all that. And really, I mean, he is making some serious points here, because which makes a change for a Labour politician. But the SNP have really generated, they've fomented this really sort of parochial, inward-looking, nationalistic mindset in Scotland. So, for example, they bribe young Scots to stay in Scotland, and they pay for their tuition, but only if they study in Scotland, not if they travel to England and study. So, people stay in Scotland, they think the SNP's taking care of them. There's all this anti-English xenophobia, which, I think we can both agree that that's bad. But it's really bad. And considering Scotland used to be, a really outward-looking nation, and ran so much of the UK military and the government and the civil service and the police. And I worked in government and civil service, and there were so many other Scots. And now I feel, that's changed, and it's really drawing in. So hopefully, and also with the UK government, Boris Johnson isn't the most sort of sellable person to Scots. He's a bumbling Etonian oaf. So yeah, Keir's got a point here.
Yeah, Julia, how are you feeling about this?
I have to say that, okay, obviously I'm a lefty, but I've not necessarily always been a fan of Starmer. But I think, for me, Starmer has stepped up recently, and he's acting more like a leader. But on the other hand, so has Boris. Boris has been, and I did say that in the show before that I thought the war would be, his saving grace. And so, I think they're acting like leaders, and that's probably what we need right now as a country. Going back to your xenophobia, and also the little frockel we had a little moment ago, but we do really like each other really, is that I did a gig in Glasgow, and it was really early on in my career, so I thought they were being horrible to me because they didn't like me, and I said, is it because I'm Asian? And this guy just pipes up and goes, no, we hate you because you're English. And so I hear you with the
very good of you to tell that story and take the swear words out.
Yes, bleep, 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 bleepity bleep.
Part 2 has come to a close. In Part 3, we'll be discussing gambling ethics, a novel approach to bike thefts, and the legend that was John Belushi.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
That you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm your host, Stephen Allen, reviewing what's in Sunday's papers with Sajila Kershi and Leo Kirst. Now we move on to China, where the government is helping people make babies, which has given me a terrible mental image that I wish to get rid of. Sajila.
Nobody needs to be there when you're helping to make babies. Chinese MPs urge no limit on family size to boost birth rate, as you might know. Back in the 70s and 80s, to reduce growth rate of Chinese enormous population, they had a one baby rule, which is one of my friends was born around that time and misses having siblings. But anyway, families are now allowed to have 3 children, but MPs want all restrictions lifted because their population is basically going down, and they've not had much. Back in where are we going? The birth rate with 10.62 million babies, down from 12 million in 2020, and 14.65 million in 2019. The population grew by 480,000 last year, the slowest rate since the Great Chinese Famine of 1959 and 61. So the lockdown obviously wasn't making them have sexy time.
But some of their lockdowns were so strict that if a lockdown was called and you were visiting someone else, you stayed there, which would have made it harder to get your partner pregnant. I'm not an expert on it.
You can get other people pregnant.
You can't just grab the nearest person and impregnate them.
You
can't be with the one you love the one you're with.
You're not Harvey Weinstein.
No. I mean, if there was a... Love comes in all sorts of dark places.
Interesting. So the maths of this then. So they've changed the rules so now you can have 3 children, but there aren't having enough babies. Why would making the rule 4, 5 or as many children as you want change it? Because you're not even hitting the 3 target.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, they should really just let people have as many children as they want. Because, I mean, what we've seen across the world as countries get more affluent, I mean, in India, for example, which, traditionally had a high birth rate, as it's become wealthier, people have to work more. We see this in the West as well. So both partners have to work, and then they don't have time, and they don't have they can't afford to have children, basically, because you've got to take time off work and stuff.
Also, China's probably been programmed into only having that one child, because when that becomes like that is in your psyche then, and you just think, well, I can't, all the reasons why we only had the one child policy, why would I change that?
Also, they might have had that second child and realised joy doesn't scale. Having more isn't necessarily better,
Says he was about to have this first.
Yeah, don't worry, I might stop at just the one. To Egypt, where a woman has shattered a glass ceiling like it was the 1960s.
Yeah. So a woman has become the first female judge to sit on the bench of Egypt's State Council, which is one of the top courts in Egypt. So she's called Radwa Helmi. She made her appearance in a Cairo courthouse. She was a little bit late because she had a little bit of trouble parking. But she was among 98 women appointed last year to join the council, one of Egypt's main judicial bodies, after a decision by the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. So she got there. She complained about the air conditioning, she had a cry in the toilets, and then she went home early because she had period pains. But apart from that, it was a real step forward for women in the workplace.
So, Leo.
It's round number 2.
Round 2 with Leo. So the move came shortly before the 8th of March, International Women's Day. Now, literally every patriarchal country does this. Just before International Women's Day, they'll give one little carrot. I mean, Egypt, they're trailblazers, let's face it. Back, 1000 BC, they had Cleopatra leader coming at you. And now how long has it taken them to get another woman? So, yeah, this is not uncommon for me to see just before International Women's Day. In fact, you're booked for International Women's Day because I asked who was in. It's because you're pretty.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Quite feminine.
Yeah. No. It's just that we just can abuse
the
you
icon.
on the telly.
Okay.
I saw a woman wearing a T-shirt that said "Smashing Patriarchy." And it's just nice to see some people appreciate it,
Let's move on to the Mail on Sunday. A lottery winner was tricked by a shopkeeper who sold them the ticket. Watch out, it could be you, Sajila.
Oh, OK, so shopkeeper who told deaf 81-year-old Euro Millions ticket was a loser, so she could steal his 130,000 win, is jailed for 28 months, and quite right too. What a horrible thing to do. So this 81-year-old pensioner, and also deaf, I'm deaf as well, so I really relate to this. I don't like it when people try and make an idiot of me. But Narinda Gill, 52, swiped the lucky dip ticket from retired delivery man Frank Howland, 81, after checking it at her shop in Leeds, West Yorkshire. And this is an ethical question. Like, when you get those, like if you found a wallet, would you hand it in? If you had like a ticket in your hand, and it's that much money, would you give it to the person? Would you have done what this?
I would now that I know you can actually be traced with CCTV footage and go to jail. I'd definitely give it.
What about you?
What would I do over a pensioner?
Yeah.
Thanks for asking. No, I don't think I would.
No,
actually,
we don't, right? Because we're decent people. So what I would do is I would give the ticket to the pensioner and say, "Well done." I'd befriend them. I'd get them to trust me. And, it's just a waiting game. Just a waiting game, that's all.
Inherit the house.
And
I like
inherit
that.
the house that I'm never going to be able to afford.
Do we worry how many times this happens and we don't suddenly find it? Because the guy didn't know until he was contacted by the police.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that his son or son-in-law took the call and just thought it was a scam. I probably would hang up on someone saying, "You've just won." Come on, mate. I'm not having that. But how many times could this happen and we never know about it?
That's true.
But then I suppose we'd see a lot of shopkeepers driving a lot of nicer cars. Keep an eye out on that.
Yeah.
See if there's any difference.
Keep them peeled, as they used to say. Keep them peeled. Who's that?
Those were the days. I can't remember his name.
Zed Coles, no.
No, it's Police 5. No.
Police 5.
In America, some people can't even make a profit selling drugs to drugs users. And this is in the Sunday Times, Leo.
Yeah, tragic story. So California, along with a lot of American states, has legalized cannabis. So you can walk into a shop and buy cannabis that's, state approved and tested, but you also pay tax on it. So apparently the taxes are so high and so onerous, and the regulations are so difficult. They've burdened the legal operators, and now illegal growers are taking over again, and people are buying their cannabis from illegal dealers because it's cheaper. And this is quite a significant thing because it generates a lot of money for the state. So California collected almost $1 billion in revenue during the first 3 quarters of last year from cannabis. So it's taxed at a flat rate of $161 a pound, as well as a 15% excise tax that is added to other charges associated with bringing the drug to market. And it's a lot of calculation. And a lot of us, our first experience of the metric system was buying an eighth of weed. So, this is now adding. Now you're also going to learn about calculating value-added tax and all the rest of it. So maybe this is the government's way of increasing school children's knowledge of financial systems.
Yeah, you might have a point there. But also, to increase their knowledge, did you know that the skunk a variation of the old-fashioned ye olde
Sound like
weedy,
you're
the oldie
getting
weedy that was
stuck into it,
that was actually made you mellow.
Yeah.
It's vile. Kids, don't try it. The smell. It actually smells like a skunk. When I was in Montreal, I remember smelling it in the mountain area, and I said,
Was it an actual
let's have
skunk?
somebody smoking. And they said, no, it's actually skunks. Skunks, when they do their little tail thing, and that's the smell.
What I don't understand about this story is that surely
Don't touch drugs.
or skunks, they don't like it, and that's when they spray. This story, all of this tax revenue they'll be bringing in, they wouldn't have been having a handful of years ago. So why are they so greedy with it? Surely you could slowly step it in.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm not in charge. Sunday's Independent marks the anniversary of the death of a great comedian and a substance fan, Sajila.
Huh?
On to the John Belushi story.
Oh, the John Belushi story. OK, because, reader, I was somewhere else. So the John Belushi, we're remembering America's most rebellious comic. 40 years since he died of an accidental overdose. Mark Beaumont charts the rise and fall of a funny man whose subversive and larger-than-life spirit lives on. I loved him in, in National Lampoon's Day. Toga, toga, toga. OK, that shows how old I am. Animal House, who can forget that? And little-known fact, Blues Brothers, how can we not mention Blues Brothers? And Saturday Night Live. It's a little-known fact that somebody just told me. He and Dan Aykroyd, very good friends, and Dan had just finished writing Ghostbusters when he found out that his friend had sadly passed away. And he had originally written it as a two-part thing for him and for, Belushi. And I'd like to think that in Ghostbusters that there was the spirit of John Belushi.
If ever there's a show where you could still have someone who's no longer with us, it's Ghostbusters. Yeah, I mean, Leo, was he a comic icon for you? I mean, I didn't watch Saturday Night Live. I didn't even know what it was when I was growing up. But things like Blues Brothers, the films.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get Saturday Night Live on Scottish TV. We had to watch somebody making shortbread in a bucket. But I think there was American comedians, when they did come across and they did shows like Clive James, we get a glimpse of them, and they were amazing. They were so exciting, larger than life. Not just John Belushi, but also Sam Kinison and who's the goat boy? Bill Hicks. So, and these comedians that you'd never get in the UK, because I think the industry in the UK sort of prioritises sort of very beta males as the people they picked for sort of global stardom. So, the comedians in America, Chris Rock, Bill Burr, they were really exciting, sort of high status, very opinionated and saying outrageous things. So, yeah, I mean, he was also, I mean, his life was insane. The amount of drugs and womanizing and partying that he did. Even though he died young, he crammed a lot into his life. And I mean, he'd try and lose weight. I remember reading about him trying to lose weight, and so he'd go on a diet all day, and then he'd be like, "Well, I'm still the same size." And you can imagine the dilemma he was in.
Do we have any British equivalents? Because this is the thing. Where are our? Oh, I suppose we do have them. Do we have them?
What? Are you looking at me? Yeah, me. What?
You're not rock and roll. You're not rock and roll.
No, I think Leo makes an interesting point that comedy, with the way that our stand-up developed, we do play down. Self-effacement is the British way of comedy.
I guess Ian Cognito would have been one. Or maybe Jerry Sadowitz, who's still performing. And these people were, if they started out now, there's no way they'd make it through. I mean, Jerry Sadowitz would be in jail.
Still could happen. Into the Mail on Sunday now. Good news and bad news. The good news is you can reverse these signs of dementia. The bad news is you have to spend time with other people, Sajila.
Oh, we're back here. Early signs of dementia could be reversed by a good social life study finds. So a better social life could reverse memory problems in people with early signs of dementia, research suggests. Now, this is obviously during lockdown, people weren't socialising, they weren't going out. And what's really a hopeful thing is that if you have suffered some cognitive kind of,
impairment.
Yes, obviously it's affected me over lockdown. They said that we found that even if you were cognitively impaired 5 years ago, if you actively participate in social interactions, activities such as volunteering, meeting with friends, socialising, attending religious services, not for me, but, everyone to their own, then possibly a proportion of these people will get better and become normal again, which is really, really exciting. So for all those people that were sort of stuck in lockdown, including my mother, get out out there. And I mean, she used to go to Zumba classes, she used to go like gym, she socialises more than me. All that stopped, and I'd love to see all these people going out there. And I think this is a really wonderful story.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I'm wondering if it's going to be one of the hidden impacts of lockdown. We had, like, 2 years of on and off being completely isolated. Well, other people did. I still went and saw my mates and stuff because I thought it was ridiculous.
Because you're rock and roll.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was. I mean, what's rock and roll about having a meal with some friends? You know what I mean?
No,
it's just what we
should.
The
comedians that we were talking about rock and roll comedians earlier. So
right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was the John Belushi. Yeah. Instead of doing lines of coke, I was just having a sandwich with some friends. But yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see these, and there's other impacts. So children are speaking at a later and later age because they can't see. They couldn't see the lips moving, so you need to be able to see lips to form speech. And there's all these little things that are going to add up, and really, I think it could be an overwhelming impact. There's more. The cure could have been worse than the disease for COVID.
Let's move on now to a story that's like a real-life version of Hot Fuzz. Avon and Somerset police found a stolen bike. This one's from the Mail on Sunday. Leo?
Yeah, so they've basically they found a way of stopping bike crime by investigating it, which is a novel approach which other police forces might want to take with other crimes. So basically, somebody came from Denver, Colorado, and she was due to compete in an over 70s category at a cycle race in Ipswich. But her bright orange racing bike was locked outside a cafe, and it was stolen. It was stolen, and it was actually recovered by the police. And this is because Avon and Somerset have an amazing clear-up rate. So last year, the average clear-up rate across England and Wales for bike thieves was 2%. So if you get your bike stolen, there's like a 1 in 50 chance they're going to find it. There's no chance. But in Avon and Somerset, it was 23%, which is great. So yeah, basically what they've done, he says, we do good old-fashioned investigation. I wish police would do this. Somebody broke into my car last year, like $2,000 worth of camera gear. I phoned up the police. They couldn't have cared less. They could not have cared less. The only way they would have investigated it was if I said they'd misgendered me on Twitter as they stole it. You know what I mean? Then they'd have been straight round to
I'm going to be in agreement with you because my brother got burgled 4 times and they never came out once. They just took like the number, what happened. Yeah. And it's like, do you need to isn't there forensics? I mean, have I been watching Watch TV? Where's the fingerprints? Forensics? Where's all the people?
Just
we need
something.
people. Yeah, they don't have the people.
Let's try and fit this one in. Women can get away with telling bad jokes more than men can. It's never stopped me, Sajila.
OK, women can get away with telling bad jokes more than men because females are seen as more attentive to others, the study finds. The thing is, this I thought is about comedians, but it's not. It's not about comedians. It's about like social interaction. So women can get away with telling bad jokes more than a man can, or the study suggests. They found that men tended to be judged more harshly when their gags fell flat, and were also judged less likeable and funny at the same situation. Now, they did a little study with Brad and Brenda. So Brad and Brenda at Yale School of Management and University of Toronto. These people have way too much money to do this research. And they involved 5,400 people and asked their responses to fictional situations with Brad and Brenda. So Brad tried to crack a joke all night and their date didn't go very well after the first drink. So this is really more about how we react in social interactions, with each other.
Beautifully, you've made us run out of time, which means we can't get Leo's point on whether women tell jokes. Somehow it means we won't get cancelled. Thanks. We've reached the end of the show. Thank you to my guests, Sajila Kershi and Leo Kearse. Headliners, we're back tomorrow at 11 o'clock. I will see you there.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing.